Kingdom Hearts Missing Link is an upcoming continuation of the long-running Kingdom Hearts series that acts as a hybrid between a typical story-driven single-player Kingdom Hearts experience and a Pokemon Go-style augmented reality game with live service and gacha aspects. I've heard many people in the community asking tons of questions about just how the augmented reality features of this game were supposed to work, and in particular, questions about how much progress is going to be tied behind actually moving about in the real world. I had many of these same questions myself, and after being lucky enough to play over 40 hours of the closed beta test held in May of 2024, hopefully I can provide anyone curious with some answers to these questions. This video aims to explain the augmented reality mode, in this game known as the Astral Dimension. I will not touch on any direct story spoilers, only showing footage from the traditional single-player components of the game where strictly necessary, and even then, only extremely basic things, no new plot details or the like. I love Kingdom Hearts, but I don't love gacha games on principle. The only games of this variety that I have played are Kingdom Hearts Union Cross, Dark Road, and I suppose Pokemon Go. So forgive me if the things I am explaining are common knowledge in the current gacha gaming landscape, or if I start referring back to those other games far too much. Of course, please take everything I am saying with a huge helping of salt, because everything found within this beta is subject to be changed before the full release of the game. However, I still feel like knowing the fundamental aspects of this title will be useful when that full game itself is launched. Okay, let's get started. To begin from the very basics, in a typical moment of gameplay, you will see that you are represented by your avatar, which you customized in the prologue, and that avatar is in a location that corresponds to your real-life location on this overworld map. The overworld can be easily zoomed in and out of, and clicking on the area map will allow you to see a variety of icons that represent things you can do by traveling to those locations, with these activities refreshing every 24 hours. If you move to any of these locations in real life, and if your device is in GPS mode, your character will travel around the map as you do. While in GPS mode, as you move around the real world and your avatar interacts with the various objects scattered across this map, you will start earning a type of currency called AP, a resource around which much of this half of Missing Link revolves. In GPS mode, AP is earned by defeating Heartless in combat, by touching recovery posts, by claiming peace posts, by registering Gatekeeper posts, and by collecting treasure chests, all of which are found scattered across the real world. This AP will become very important for the other main function of the Astral Dimension, where, from your stationary real-life position, you can manually navigate your character wherever you please around the world in a mode called Touch Mode. Let's talk about each of those things that we can do from the overworld, and then get into GPS and Touch Mode in greater detail. Tapping on any of the Heartless that swarm around your character enters you into a battle with a batch of Heartless corresponding to the one you selected. Your avatar can combat these foes by using a combination of regular Keyblade attacks and special attacks that are performed by channeling the powers of the characters depicted on these little figurines known as pieces. These pieces will be what a large portion of your gameplay revolves around. Acquiring them, making them stronger, equipping them in your deck, and so on. Obtaining pieces works more similarly to acquiring cards in Dark Road than, say, acquiring medals in Union Cross. You can only have one of each piece in your inventory. Obtaining additional duplicates goes towards unlocking greater strength for that original copy. In combat, these pieces function extremely similarly to the medals and cards from Union Cross and Dark Road respectively, except in Missing Link, using any of these channeled special attacks consumes some of your MP, which, along with your HP, persists between encounters. There are also special rainbow variants of each piece that, when acquired, unlock a permanent reduction in the MP cost of using that particular piece. Any aspects of the combat UI can be customized to your liking, and you may have already noticed that my pieces and action buttons have the symbols for the PlayStation buttons atop them. This is because I was easily able to pair a PlayStation 5 controller to the tablet that I was playing Missing Link on, and the game automatically detected the device and had preset button inputs mapped to various actions, letting me control my avatar extremely fluidly and precisely as I would in many other 3D Kingdom Hearts titles. I probably won't be bringing a controller with me in public, but I certainly recommend pairing a compatible controller to play Missing Link with at home if you are able to. By my count, there were 7 regular species of Heartless to be encountered in this mode, but each species could also appear as a far larger variant with more HP, or as a variant that embodied one of the game's 6 elemental types: fire, ice, wind, earth, lightning, and water, or even as a mega elemental variant that displayed both of those irregularities. As you might expect, those elements play a role in combat and determining your setup. For example, fire-based attacks deal additional damage to Ice variety Heartless, and less damage to Fire and Water type Heartless. Defeating a batch of Heartless removes the one you tapped from the overworld, and you can quite easily clear all your currently spawned adversaries from the map. However, a new handful of these encounters seems to always spawn every few minutes or so at your current location, but if you travel around, you will encounter new batches far more frequently. Defeating these Heartless in combat will always reward you with two kinds of resources. The first type is for leveling up and strengthening your Keyblade, and the second resource is for leveling up the pieces themselves. There is a slider to set the overworld Heartless from as weak as you like to up to 10 levels stronger than what your current total strength will cause the game to recommend. The stronger the foes that you successfully defeat, the more of these resources that you acquire. Like everything, successfully battling nearby Heartless awards AP if you're in GPS mode. Recover posts restore approximately 40% of your lost HP and MP back to your character, and each can be interacted with after every 10 to 15 minutes. They seem to be scattered frequently along most typical roads and some pathways, everywhere except major highways from what I could tell, so a typical walk or bike ride or commute should let you interact with several, so your character can maintain sufficient HP and MP. Interacting with the Peace Post enters you into a battle against a computer-controlled Keyblade wielding opponent, and if you are victorious within the set time limit, you, I guess, steal the piece depicted on the post from them? In the beta, these Peace Posts pitted you against an opponent that could range from level 3 to level 50, with the difficulty corresponding to the rarity of the Peace Post that you interacted with. Bronze, 1-star pieces are very commonly found all over the map, and guarded by simple level 3 opponents, so these pieces are quite easy to obtain. Silver, 2-star pieces are less common but still plentiful, and are guarded by a more difficult level 25 opponent. And lastly, Gold, 3-star Peace Posts are very rare, and are guarded by a far beefier level 40 Peace Hunter. In the beta, the Gold Peace Posts always contained either an exclusive 3-star Sully or 3-star Rapunzel piece, and there was a way to determine which one you would find, which we will go into detail over later. Glowing Rainbow Peace Posts can be discovered in all tiers, with a further bump up in the difficulty of your opponent, but they award the coveted Rainbow variants of the depicted piece if you are victorious. All of the pieces you obtain from the Peace Posts seem to exist separately to the pieces that you can pull from banners, meaning the only way to acquire these exclusive pieces is to track down and conquer the various posts, and you want to do this multiple times if you wish to acquire enough duplicates to maximize the various pieces' strength and level. The difficulty in these challenges lies more with the 30-second time limit than with the enemy themselves, and if you are defeated or fail to take down the enemy in time, you will gain nothing. Win or lose, the particular Peace Post you have challenged will be empty for the remainder of the day, so you cannot farm the same Peace Post endlessly if you are victorious, or re-challenge the exact same post if you miss the mark. But fear not, because if you fail a challenge against a particular Peace Post, the game remembers how much HP your opponent had when the time ran out, so the next time you come across that exact same Peace Post, you can effectively resume the battle from where you left off with your time refreshed. Here you can see that I actually walked in GPS mode to a Rapunzel piece after failing one in touch mode earlier, and the level 40 opponent had only a sliver of their HP remaining when the battle began. All pieces have consistent locations for everybody playing the game worldwide, and like everything, these locations refresh every 24 hours. I would absolutely recommend forming a community with people in your local area that you trust, because if one of you spots a 3-star piece, or even more rarely, a rainbow 3-star piece, you can inform your community of its coordinates, and everyone can navigate to that location in GPS, or more likely touch mode, to try and earn it for themselves. Gatekeeper posts are the equivalent of Pokemon Go's gyms, in that they are a location that will spawn raid bosses periodically during the day. A portal of darkness will begin to open at these posts with a 1-hour countdown, and then for 1 hour afterwards, the depicted boss will be present for you or anybody else to challenge. Approaching a specific Gatekeeper post and registering it is something you can do daily to as many Gatekeeper posts as you like. The first Gatekeeper post of the day that you interact with seems to grant you with a special black raid pass, and we will cover how they interact with raids separately in their own section. Chests come in 3 different types: regular, rainbow, and grand. Finding a treasure chest adds it to your overall inventory, and opening the chest grants you the piece located within. Regular chests are found commonly scattered across the map, and inside they contain a silver or better piece that is randomly selected from one of the banners that the game has available in its gacha shop. Every time you open a chest, you are effectively doing a single pull from one of these banners, and you have the ability to set which banner you would like your chest's contents to come from as you find them in the overworld. Rainbow chests are far rarer but work similarly, the main difference being that their contents are guaranteed to be rainbow variants of typical pieces. Grand chests are the rarest of all, to the point where only a handful seem to exist in each country, and they could currently only be claimed once. You can view these scarce chest locations by zooming completely out on the real world map, and if you are fortunate enough to live near one, then that's great, but most people will be forced to use touch mode to teleport to these faraway locations and undergo some trials in order to collect them. During the beta, only 2 pieces could be acquired from grand chests. They are not like the lesser chests that perform a random pull of your selected banner. These pieces were Winnie the Pooh and Ariel, though for whatever reason I was only able to get Ariel in my grand chests, even though I feel like I adjusted the settings correctly before picking that chest up. It's something I'll have to look into more closely when the full game releases, I suppose. It's important to note though, that you cannot simply open these chests immediately upon acquiring them. I guess the glossary was wrong, because here are some mighty locks that can withstand the incredible power of the Keyblade, and only sweet capitalism can grace these gears. As I said, opening most chests is the equivalent of doing a single pull from a banner, and this is an action that typically requires the premium currency of jewels to undertake. Oh, but fear not, you have an array of options available to you if you wish to unlock a chest that you have collected. To start, you have one free slot available to you in which you can place one single chest. Regular chests placed in this slot take 8 hours to unlock, rainbow chests take 16 hours, and grand chests take a whopping 5 days to relinquish their contents. Temporary access to a second slot seems to be purchasable in the full game, though how long this access would last, I could not tell you. Other mentionings of a pass suggest that it might last a week like Union Cross's VIP used to, but I have no way of knowing that for sure right now. Either way, you are left with a choice of how best to utilize this slot. You could set 3 alarms a day and always keep it full of these lesser chests. You could potentially open up 1 regular and 1 rainbow chest a day, or prioritize opening grand chests whenever you obtain them. The second option for opening chests is to spend a limited resource of chest tickets that will instantly open a chest for you. These tickets look to be a premium item in the full game, but seem to also be periodically awarded for completing various tasks and quests. But they get a little more complicated in that there are regular and apparently rainbow versions of these tickets as well, but I don't think those existed in the beta. You can also only hold 10 regular chest tickets in your inventory at a time. The developers clearly do not want you to hoard this resource so that you can instantly unlock a bunch of new pieces every time a new banner is dropped. Still, I suppose it's nice to have an option to acquire these premium pieces without having to spend jewels. Though, of course, spending jewels is still an option. Your third choice for unlocking chests is simply to pry apart that wallet and the chest will burst right open. A simple scrap of paper or a handful of jewels. So much for that mighty Keyblade, huh? When you consider that doing a regular single pull on a banner costs 300 jewels, if you are effectively doing the same thing for only 240 jewels, then you are basically getting a 20% discount on pulls by going through the rigmarole of acquiring and unlocking chests. This cost does double though for opening the guaranteed rainbow chest, but balloons out to 20% more than the cost of an entire 10-piece pull if you wish to instantly open a grand chest and obtain the guaranteed 3-star gold piece within. 3,600 jewels, thank you very much. Far too much if you ask me. You'll notice that the grand chest also gives you the option to spend the princely sum of 36,000 AP to unlock it instantly, a number you could feasibly grind for if you commuted regularly, but I wonder if that functionality will remain in the released version of the game, or if another tier of ticket will be introduced that replaces this option. So that's just about everything that currently exists in the overworld. You are encouraged to walk around in real life, manually battling the Heartless and interacting with the various points of interest. But you can also utilize the game's more passive, hands-free setting to have the game play itself as you move around, or while you're stationary. In hands-free mode, the game will periodically tap on anything on the overworld map that can be interacted with that is within your range, represented by the white ring that fans outward from your avatar. If you are stationary, this interaction check seems to happen infrequently, and less Heartless seem to spawn at your location. But as you start to move around, even at a walking pace, more Heartless will spawn, and the game will frequently elect to engage them. In hands-free mode, the combat is set to auto by default. And when in auto, the AI will liberally expend your MP as long as you have some remaining until the enemy Heartless have only a small portion of their HP left, at which point they will default back to regular Keyblade attacks. There are two varieties of Keyblades that we know of so far, physical and magical. If you are wielding physical Keyblades, the AI controlling your character will only be able to close in and engage the targeted Heartless directly. But if you are wielding a magical Keyblade, the AI tends to try and maintain a set distance between you and the Heartless it is locked onto, and attack with ranged attacks relentlessly until its target is dead. But both styles will ignore all other enemies around them apart from the currently targeted foe. You can specify in the settings the HP range at which you would like the hands-free mode to not engage with the enemies. So, if you have, say, less than 10% of your HP remaining, you might not want the computer to waste its time fighting enemies that it will probably lose to until it tags a recovery post. But even if you lose an encounter, you will only be sent back to the overworld with 1 HP. Nothing seems to actually be lost. The system seems to only be able to do one thing at a time. Notably, if you are in a battle, you cannot collect any treasure chests or recovery posts or register raids until that battle is complete. There is a certain logic that dictates which actions hands-free mode will perform. For example, when given a choice, hands-free mode seems to only tap a recovery post if your character actually has missing HP and MP to be recovered, otherwise it will ignore them. But it will always register Gatekeeper posts and collect treasure chests if it is not already currently occupied with a battle. It will prioritize interacting with peace posts and rarer Heartless, called Metal or Gold Podcats, over engaging regular Heartless in battle. When you complete a battle, you typically do not recover any HP or MP, so interacting with restore posts is necessary to keep yourself full of HP and that precious MP that you will require to efficiently battle the Heartless. But there are also potions, ethers, and elixirs that you can acquire that can top up your HP and MP, and you can determine if you would like the game to automatically use them once you drop below a certain threshold. At the time of the beta, these items quite frequently dropped from enemy encounters and restore posts, so liberal use is encouraged. Though, as always, this may change in the full game, and more cautious consumption of these tonics may be smarter. You are also currently limited to only being able to hold 10 of each kind of potion and ether, so you won't be able to stockpile a massive amount before going on a big journey. However, there is, of course, a premium item that will recover your HP and MP after each encounter, so if you are going for a walk, equipping one of these is a great idea. As said earlier, you control the level of enemies that you encounter in the overworld, and though stronger Heartless yield higher quantities of resources, all encounters with typical Heartless award the same 4 AP. So this gives you a choice. You could turn the level down, and know that your AI avatar should be mowing down legions of Heartless with relative ease, yielding lots of AP but not many resources. Or you could set the level to recommended, and get a nice balance of resources, AP, and ideally be expending MP at a consistent rate that you can reliably make up through items and restore points. Or do you crank the level and rewards to maximum, but risk possibly being KO'd or burning through too much MP and items, leaving you drained for the next encounter, and forcing the AI to very slowly chip away at your foes with the auto attacks. Though again, this is far less of a concern if you are using premium items or are passing by a lot of recovery posts. Walking around is a decent method of spawning Heartless and allowing you to interact with the various targets that are within a reasonable distance of your starting location. I personally went for a handful of walks during the week the beta was active and quite enjoyed myself, even though I could really only aim for a couple of things to do on each walk because of the time it took for me to reach each place. But I think I'm really going to enjoy mapping out a daily bike route that hits up several peace posts, treasure chests, and raids over a few kilometer radius when the full game comes out, and unlike Pokemon Go, I would know that the game will be doing its thing and interacting with the real world, while I am focused on riding. And that's sort of the thing with this game. The higher the distance you can cover, the more and more points you will pass by that the game can interact with. If you are moving at quite high speeds, say by taking a bus or a train or driving a car, well, you're essentially giving the game endless things to interact with in a given moment. If you can get your Heartless encounters down to only taking a second or two each, then you can be earning resources at a ridiculously high rate. And I think a person with that kind of lifestyle is who this game is heavily balanced around. A person that leaves their house and commutes to and from school or work daily, and can have a device in their pocket that can generate large amounts of resources, which they can then choose to spend in their free time or on their breaks, or when they get home. Let's look at the mechanics of hands-free mode a bit more when you're reaching high speeds, shall we? Again, unlike Pokemon Go, missing links still allows the game to function while traveling at high speeds, such as while driving or commuting on public transport. Now, make no mistake, neither myself nor the game are encouraging you to drive in a distracted way that would endanger yourself or others. In fact, the game will actively ask you if you are driving a vehicle and prohibit Heartless from spawning if you are moving at a rate that it considers too fast to be safely playing. But the clever solution that Missing Link utilizes here is to place no restrictions upon itself when you utilize the game's own screen lock feature while in hands-free mode. When you hit this button, your entire screen turns mostly black, preventing you from actively playing the game yourself, but allowing your avatar to continue endlessly battling Heartless and interacting with the world outside unseen. If you have placed a marker on your map beforehand, a compass and distance to that marker will appear on the locked screen that can assist you in reaching your destination, but apart from that, no other distractions will be shown on screen to pull your focus away from the road. You can even turn the volume up if you wish to verify that your character is still chipping away, but as long as you have an internet connection, they should be just fine. Without tweaking any settings or optimizing my setup at all, this is the results of a 3-hour drive on only day 3 of the beta being out. Over 21,000 AP with no real effort required at all. I was going to be traveling anyway. Such optimizations might have included lowering the enemy levels to ensure that practically every enemy died instantly to the Mickey nuke piece that the beta gave us one copy of in the tutorial, or that I actually allowed my character to replenish their MP with ethers instead of hoarding them like I was doing at the time. So the AP you can gain while driving or commuting, unfortunately, but logically, far eclipses the amount you can gain by walking, and I really feel like this game is designed to fit into the lifestyle of someone who drives or takes public transport as part of their daily routine. That's not to say that someone who doesn't drive frequently should feel discouraged from playing, not at all. I personally still think I'll be able to pull a decent stream of resources whenever I ride my bike, for example, but I'll definitely be getting in the habit of having this thing on in the background whenever I go for a drive as well. But let's say you've gone out and earned yourself a nice stack of AP. Well, what are you then supposed to do with it? By touching this little button down here, you can enter touch mode, which essentially lets you control your character freely as they walk around the real world, instead of being bound to your real world GPS position. If you zoom the camera all the way in while in this mode, you will notice that your character is now essentially accurately scaled, and they can perform actions such as flow motion, running up the sides of buildings. But the main difference between touch mode and GPS mode is that in touch mode, all of the aforementioned actions cost AP to initiate and no longer award any. For example, in the beta, fighting a regular Heartless mob in GPS mode awarded you 4 AP, whereas if you are walking around unrestricted in touch mode, any of those same encounters will now cost you 20 AP. The other resources you get from the encounter will still be the same, regardless of which mode you were playing in. Registering any Gatekeeper post in touch mode will now cost you 400 AP. Collecting a treasure chest will cost 1000 AP, battling peace posts, even the level 3 garbage ones, will cost you a fair chunk as well. But you can start to see where the game becomes rewarding to someone who can earn a few thousand AP passively as part of their daily routine, and who can then elect to spend that AP by performing actions of their choosing when they get back home for the day. Moving your avatar on the map does not cost any AP, only interacting with things in this mode does. So, in theory, you could walk all the way to the other side of the planet without spending any AP if you wanted to. You can also place down something called a teleport stone at any location your character has traveled to, but we were only given one removable one in the beta. These teleport stones allow you to return to any single location you have already visited as many times as you want, which is convenient because whenever you return to GPS mode, you're of course immediately warped all the way back to your current real-world location, and you can use these stones to freely revisit places you have already been. I say freely because touch mode allows you to teleport your avatar anywhere in the world at a cost of 10 AP per kilometer. So if, for example, you wanted to travel 1000 kilometers away, it would cost you 10,000 AP. But why would you actually want to travel anywhere so far away? If you take a look at the world map and fully zoom it out, you will see that the entire world has been completely shrouded in dark miasma. And if you want to, you can choose to cleanse this world of this darkness one tiny quadrant at a time. As you move around in GPS or touch mode, you will often see pools of darkness on the horizon, and within these pools lies a notable Heartless at its center. These particular Heartless are known as area enemies, and defeating these area enemies will give you a directional bearing towards the area boss that pollutes this quadrant. From here, The challenge becomes to actually find the area boss, because though you now know the direction the enemy is in, you do not know how far away they are along this bearing. Clearing out additional area enemies will give you further directional clues towards that actual area boss, and with some forethought and a touch of trigonometry, you can actually get a pretty good idea of where that area boss should lie. Area bosses look very visually similar to the regular area enemies at first glance. However, the miasma they are surrounded by is visually a lot redder than the purple of the lesser area enemies. Successfully taking out the boss cleanses the quadrant in which that boss resided on your version of the map, and slightly increases the challenge of all subsequent area enemies and bosses that you choose to encounter. There are also apparently rare area enemies that can be found in the game, but I was unable to find any during the beta. Touch mode is absolutely 100% recommended when clearing out area enemies and area bosses. Unless you like the idea of manually driving around a roughly 100km by 100km quadrant, with a spare helicopter and boat of course, in case your target lies on private property or straight up in the ocean. To make saving your first couple of quadrants easier, an NPC will instantly reveal the coordinates of the first 2 area bosses that you dispatch one area enemy from. However, after your first 2 quadrants have been cleansed, it will take the NPC far more area enemy encounters to track down those precise coordinates for you. But this is a good option for people that aren't so confident in their cartography skills. When the boss's location is revealed, you can of course teleport to those coordinates immediately by spending AP, and you can share this information with other players, allowing them to save themselves the hassle of searching this particular quadrant themselves and head straight for the final boss. By cleansing an area of its miasma, you are able to collect any grand chests that are found within, and a new type of posts called cluster posts will be visible to you in that saved zone. Unlocking cluster posts is one of the conditions to unlocking raid bosses, or at least it was in the beta. As said, cluster posts will be available in any areas that have been rid of their area boss. These posts will glow brightly on the map, forcing 3 Heartless to spawn around them of the depicted type, in addition to the regular Heartless you typically see spawning on the map. Cluster posts currently come in 8 types, and can force Heartless spawns of any of the 6 elemental varieties, again, fire, ice, wind, earth, lightning and water, as well as gold or metal potcats. Potcats function similarly to growth eggs or prize enemies from Union Cross and Dark Road. They have high defensive stats, but gold cats yield 10 times the amount of Keyblade leveling materials, and metal cats drop 10 times the amount of peace leveling materials, compared to a regular encounter. This means that on average an encounter with these guys will yield about 5 times as many resources as a typical encounter, which is reflected in the 5 times higher AP cost of encountering these guys in touch mode. Cluster posts of the various elements are great for defeating specific type of enemies required to fill out your growth log, which is something we'll come back to later. After 10 or so encounters from these clusters have been defeated, the post itself will completely dissipate, but there is currently no real way of tracking how many Heartless remain in the cluster, short of actually counting them yourself. I actually tried driving out to 2 cluster posts in order to gain AP as well as the resources they yielded, rather than spending AP on encountering them in touch mode. But if you were earning a nice amount of AP as part of your daily routine, then tracking down these cluster posts would be a great place to spend it to efficiently level up your pieces and Keyblades. Defeating 2 area bosses and then fully clearing out 1 cluster post is a prerequisite for unlocking the ability to participate in raids, so let's move on to those next. Raids are quite possibly the most fun content that Missing Link introduced so far. Once the feature was unlocked, you could choose to either set up your own raid lobbies, or join into a lobby that someone else in the world had opened, and yourself and up to 5 other Keyblade wielders would team up to take down a raid boss together. The Behemoth was the only available opponent in the beta, but just like in Union Cross's cooperative multiplayer mode, I expect far more to be added over time. The Behemoth's main HP bar is located on its horn, but its 4 legs also had health bars of their own. It's recommended and borderline necessary to take out those limbs first, because until you do, the horn itself will only take approximately 10% of the damage that you try and dish out to it. Defeating each of the 4 legs also grants you MP orbs, which are the only method of recovering your MP during the raid, which you of course require to continue dishing out supportive spells or powerful attacks to efficiently take the boss down. You are ranked on how much damage you are able to deal to the boss, so powerful AoE magic attacks seem to be the meta right now, as well as equipping the magic Keyblade itself, which allows you to deal good damage and remain mobile from a distance, letting you stay away from the boss's highly powerful physical and magical attacks. Casting supportive spells like Cure, Regen, Shell, or Haste affects all of your allies within a fairly generous radius, and also awards you some support points at the final rankings. At the time of writing, there was no way to be revived if you did fall in a raid, but I'm positive that ability will eventually be added in. However, even if you were downed, if you remained in the session and the rest of your party emerged victorious, you would still also receive rewards. You are rewarded based on your participation in the raid, as well as receiving bonus rewards for placing in the top 3 based on the damage you dealt. During the beta, there was one coveted 3-star Dark Riku piece that could exclusively drop as a reward from participating in raids, but only if you spent a limited premium raid ticket or raid ticket plus when entering that raid itself. There were 3 difficulties of raids available, featuring a level 15, 25, and 40 behemoth respectively, and you could choose to randomly enter into any open lobby across those 3 difficulties for free whenever you liked. But by spending one of these raid tickets, you could specify exactly what level of challenge you were looking for, with the idea being that the strongest opponent had a guaranteed chance of awarding you with at least one copy of that Riku piece, whereas the level 15 and level 25 challenges held no such assurances. Unfortunately, this was leading to a bit of an unhealthy lobby meta developing. Because you want to yield the maximum amounts of Riku pieces per premium ticket that you spend, the logical best pathway towards that outcome would be to try and be the highest damage dealer in as strong of a raid as you could handle. By the end of the beta, many players could easily solo a level 15 raid and comfortably duo a level 25 raid, but for the level 40 raids, you really needed some allies. So, you take a look and see if you're among the top 2 or 3 statistically strongest players in a given lobby, meaning that you had a pretty good chance of hitting the required numbers for a chance at those bonus Riku rewards. But you wouldn't want the remaining members of your party to be too weak either, or else you'd have a much harder time actually taking the difficult boss down. So we were already having people leaving lobbies for a variety of reasons. Not enough people had joined the lobby, too many people had joined the lobby, their allies were too weak, their allies were too strong, so I really hope something is done to remedy this in the final version. Removing randomness from the rewards of anyone who actually spends a ticket, and granting a tiny chance of earning a piece for anybody who randomly joins a lobby, seems like a good pathway forward in my eyes. So far, I mainly covered joining lobbies that you did not set up yourself, which you would do by opening up the main menu, hitting battles, and then hitting raid matching. From here, you can choose to randomly join any of the available raid lobbies that are currently open. Or again, you could elect to spend a raid ticket plus and manually select which of the available raids you would like to search for. If no lobby was found within 60 seconds, a person spending a pass would essentially be given the option to create their own lobby, at which point others could join in. During the beta, where there were only a maximum of about 3,500 to 4,000 people allowed to participate, it was quite easy to pair up with people in my stream chat if we all picked random at the same time, but I imagine it will be more difficult once the game goes live to everybody around the world. But of course, you can also choose to manually set up raids by interacting with the aforementioned Gatekeeper posts found in the real world. Raid bosses may spawn at any Gatekeeper post between the hours of 6 AM and 10 PM, just as in Pokemon Go. A Gatekeeper post will first enter a 60-minute countdown period, preluding the actual boss's arrival, and then another subsequent 60-minute period where anyone can launch a lobby to take the boss down. This can be done in either GPS or touch mode, as long as your character is standing near the Gatekeeper post with the boss active and has registered the post raid, you are able to launch a lobby. But what makes this system far preferable to the Pokemon Go system is that if you have registered a raid at a Gatekeeper post, anytime a raid shows up at that Gatekeeper in the next 24 hours, you can walk back to that active raid in touch mode and participate in that raid without spending any additional AP. The AP cost comes from registering the raid only, not from launching any lobbies from one of those registered posts. Registered Gatekeeper posts are tracked on a separate list on your main map, conveniently displaying posts that are currently inactive, ones that have a raid arriving in the next hour, or ones at which raids are currently present. And you can easily elect to teleport straight to these previously registered posts at any time by spending some AP. This means that if you tag some Gatekeeper posts as part of your day-to-day comings and goings, you can look back through your list and plan some raiding out at a time that suits you. You don't have to then re-leave your house at a time that the video game dictates. You do, however, have to spend a raid ticket on launching a lobby in this way, but registering your first raid on a given day seems to award you with one free black raid ticket, which are spent first when you choose to launch a lobby of your own from a Gatekeeper post, and seemingly give the same potential rewards that the premium gold raid ticket pluses gave out. We were frankly showered with these golden tickets in the beta, but I'm sure that when the full game releases, they will be a more expensive item purchasable with jewels, that only a scarce amount of will be given out freely. So, how does one get strong enough to participate competitively in the highest tier of raids, as well as completing all of the more difficult content that the game has to offer? At this point, the next half of my script is basically dedicated to talking about your character's stats, the growth log system, and how to get stronger, which are quite important things for a Missing Link player to know, but may reach beyond the interests of those just looking for a simple overview of how this game plays. If you are curious to hear me talk about these aspects, then please let me know, and I will continue making the other half of this script. But given how long this video has already become, I think it's best that I just end things here for now. Thank you very much for watching. If you have any particular questions about the gameplay, then I'll be happy to answer them in the comments or in the follow-up video. And I hope to have an entirely separate video discussing the plot of Missing Link coming out soon. All the best for now. I'll catch you guys later. Bye bye.